This is a Kawasaki Ninja ZX-6R. I'm ready to do front brake bleeding. In fact, I'm one turn of the wrench away from starting this brake bleeding. How did I get here? Let me walk you through this setup here. What I have here is the right side caliper hanging on this stylish shoestring on the left side of the motorcycle here, because this way, separated from the bike's body, should any leaks occur, I can contain and deal with the leak without contaminating the forks, the lower mounting points, the axles, the ABS is on this side only, but it's gonna be bled on both sides, the ABS, the rotor, the rim, the tire, the everything. It's too much cleanup should any spills occur, and spills are likely to occur. Just little amounts, okay, very little amounts that runs down here and ends up somewhere, and that's enough to clean up already as is. I really don't want to contaminate my brakes with brake fluid. Brake fluid is corrosive. It dissolves paint and damages finished surfaces, anodized aluminum and everything. Over here at the master cylinder, I'm also ready to go. Notably, the windshield is missing. It's parking over there, so that when I'm pouring the brake fluid here, I don't want anything in the way. The master cylinder or the reservoir looks like this. There you can see some specks of dirt at the bottom of the reservoir here. I'm hoping to flush those out. It's fairly easy. And the color is orangey yellow. You can see through it noticeably. You can see that the outlet point is here at the bottom of the reservoir, and I have covered this one, folded 4 times and covered enough stuff here so it doesn't contaminate my cables and switches and forks and whatever else is here in the way. I have removed the bracket on which this is mounted so I can level it, because it's not perfectly level. Whatever, it's close enough. I might even want to rotate it a little bit by working on these clamps a little bit and just making it a little more level. What else do we have here? Yes, I've taken out the brake lever as well, and it's not lubricated yet, but I've removed the switch that's underneath. Here, I'll show you this switch. Okay, it's disconnected. Also, the switch is taken out. Here is the actual switch, so that's taken out. Your brake switch, I don't want to contaminate it. There's the mounting bolt for this bracket that's holding the reservoir in normal operation, so I really don't want to be wiping up stuff off of these. And here is the cap from the reservoir. Everything needs cleaning. Everything has some brake fluid in it. The plastic is okay with this corrosive stuff, but the metal tools aren't, so I'm gonna clean this bellows and everything up. This bellows comes out extended, you know. Yeah, I'll show you, but it's gonna make my hand dirty. But yeah, now it's dirty too. There, it comes out like this, some shape. So you're gonna have to tuck it back, and I'm gonna clean it up and everything. So there, that came out. And of course, oh yeah, on this side, this is how it looks like. The bolts have been removed. The brake components here are on the ground. This component was holding the lid on the reservoir with this little screw. So everything here is cleaned and ready for reassembly. Now I need to wash my hands, because I just touched this rubber bellows and whatever. Maybe I clean this first and then hand wash, and then I'm ready to go for this. Alright, I'm good to go over here with this brake bleeding. Now you might think this is a little over the top, but I just really hate cleanup. That's all there is to it. And undoing the clip on the mudguard over there is really not a big deal, and undoing 2 bolts, and you need to clean your brakes every so often anyhow, so this is really not a big extra deal or any kind of extra deal whatsoever. So in this gravity method, I'm just gonna open this wrench, much a quarter turn or so, and wait. This waiting, eventually gravity will work the brake fluid down and out. The brake fluid also has to go through the ABS, and I'm gonna help it by pumping the brake lever and refilling it up top as needed. But I haven't touched the brake lever yet, but you can see the fluid level already rises. So this is what I mean by gravity method. Okay, it works given sufficient time, such as all day or half a day or whatever it is. You can see it's working perfectly fine. Let's see how this brake fluid looks like. It doesn't look too orangey and too yellow. You can see the shoestring through it. You can see my finger and fingerprints through it, so it's not too bad. I'm gonna replace it anyhow, especially that it hasn't been changed for the last 2.4 years. Okay, so it should be replaced at every 2 years, especially that I use this motorcycle in the rain a lot, and I really don't remember what time it was replaced last time, but so that's how it looks like, the gravity method. Now some of it is eventually gonna trickle out at the end, but it's in the can and there's already some fluid in it. So to make sure that it doesn't take all day, I can pump the brake lever up here, and I'm so close with that level to the outlet inside the reservoir. I can pump the brake lever like so, and as I do so, brake fluid here is being pumped out like so, and it looks like it's not progressing much, but as it's being pumped, some always sloshes down, and this level keeps dropping down, so this needs to be continuously topped up. Eventually all of the brake fluid is going to be flushed from the system. Okay, how did we get to this brake? The brake line branches out at 2 points, so to flush this little bit of line out after this, where the two-way splitter is in the line, is not going to be requiring a whole lot of brake fluid or a whole lot of effort. It's very easy. Close this one and open the other one and reset for that side. Fairly straightforward. The important thing is, in this part of the brake fluid here, to watch for is any floating particles in the brake line. It should be clear like this. It should be this color or even whiter, and it should be, one more very important thing, absolutely bubble free. Absolutely, that's unquestionably bubble free. Okay, if there are bubbles, it's not good. Keep doing it until you have no bubbles in it. And when I pump the brake lever, this is how it looks like. Because I have no floating items in the liquid, so there is no reference point in the liquid itself, and that would make progress in the liquid or advancing liquid a cubic centimeter by a cubic centimeter or something like that any more obvious than this, other than that the end here seems to be bouncing or moving when I pump the brake lever. But when you've gone through like so, but when you've gone through, I don't know, about 5 of these container fulls of this, then this is also should be free of bubbles. That's also why I kind of repositioned it this way, so that the whole thing slopes towards the outlet pipe. So that's when I'm going to need an urgent refill on it. But when you've gone through enough of these, that's when you're done. By now I've gone to 4 or 5 reservoirs full of this brake fluid, so enough of it was displaced and replaced and emptied into the can. I know that the level here before I started was somewhere here, and now the level is there. So by yay much brake fluid, something like that. So that's about enough to flush the system. Also, I want to make sure that I have enough left to do this last itty bit of leg on the left side caliper on the bike. You can see the color of the old brake fluid, this reddish, yellowish, I don't know, old frying oil colored. Now the new one, you'll know that your system is flushed because the fresh is like what color is it? It's clear, okay? It's almost like water. You can see my fingers through it, my fingerprints, and it's also noticeably whiter, lighter color than this old reddish yellow whatever stuff. Clean the reservoir there. So you know, there was too much sediment in it, I didn't like it, so I wiped the whole thing clean while I'm holding the brake lever, okay, positively holding it, not exerting excessive force on it, but it's held in a shut position so it doesn't suck in extra air or any air from the reservoir at the bottom of the hole in the reservoir. So what I'm gonna do next is gonna undo the cap on this thing with one hand and stand up with it and refill this little reservoir, and then keep pumping the brake and keep looking at the progress down there. I can see it's coming along fine, and it's not sucking in air from that end because there's always a standing column of brake fluid there that stops air from going back into the caliper body. That's how that looks like. Okay, this is clear brake fluid. Don't worry about those few bubbles there along the perimeter. It's not in the line. There's always going to be air above the fluid here within the reservoir, so that's fine. Okay, but I just wanted to show you the contrasting color, so now you know that it's being flushed. I'm gonna disconnect everything gingerly, which means something like this. Yeah, come on in closer. There, so this is how it looks like. Okay, close this thing off. So at this point there's no more loss in the system. I have already placed the cap on the reservoir upstairs. So now I want to get rid of these woodworking clamps because they are kind of in the way, and what I want to do is this, like so. I want to make this bleeding valve the lowest point at this point, not the highest point like in the previous one, and then just disconnect it like so, and then catch the wrench as well, put the wrench down somewhere, and put this also somewhere where it doesn't tip over the container and the whole thing, and then reach a rag, or I like the paper towel because it's a finer thing. Maybe undo this shoelace special here, get rid of it, and get ready to clean and wipe off any little bit of brake fluid that might have leaked out here at this point. Alright, I also don't want to seriously twist the brake line either, but there isn't a whole lot of brake fluid to clean up on this one, which is good. That's how it should look like. Should any brake fluid go into the thread there, you have to get ready to clean it up. That's why I have the paper towel, because it's finer than usually the cotton rags that are around. So make sure this is top of the line, cleaned up, and then you can put the rubber cap back on it and reassemble it and put it in place. Undo this other side. It's fairly straightforward. How the brake caliper parts fit together, that's completely separate video. You can find that on this YouTube channel. Yeah, I really don't want any leaks and any brake fluid contamination happening. Alright, I'm gonna be putting it back on the other side, and I'm gonna need both hands around that. I have everything mounted and tightened to specifications on the right side brake assembly, and I have the left side caliper assembly, everything in pieces just like as previously, hanging off the shoestring. I have all the brake components here on the ground, pins, bolts, everything I need. And I switched from that container to cucumber jar or some such thing. So the main brake line is running down here and going through this union joint, and that's how it's going to the other side. So I should have probably flushed this side first, but it doesn't really make much of a difference. I have the same system set up. I'm watching the air bubbles in that little standing, or not entirely vertical, but that's the highest part of this whole system. And I have drained out this much brake fluid there. Now you can see that it's somewhat reddish. It's not terribly bad. I've seen nearly black ones. Check out my video on doing this on a Yamaha Virago. Now, it was a 1982. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this brake fluid into this old container, and anything else flushed past this point, whatever is left in that container, is going to be recycled. Meaning whatever comes out is going to be considered clean and reusable. You'll know that your system is flushed because the fresh is clear. Okay, it's almost like water. You can see my fingers through it, my fingerprints, and it's also noticeably whiter, lighter color than this old reddish yellow whatever stuff. So when the level at the reservoir gets low here, that's how that looks like. Okay, this is clear brake fluid. Turn off the tap at the bottom with the wrench, bring up the fluid, fill it up, put the empty back on there, open it again, pump it through, make sure it's absolutely air free everywhere, and do this multiple times, half a dozen times, just to make sure. Finished color of the liquid, which has a level somewhere there at the top of my nail, is almost the same as the color of the reservoir's plastic, so you can see it's moving there. And so that's how it should look like when it's fresh. Any rags you've used should be discarded, and if you opened a container, then you should put a date on it, just in case you need a little top up or something happens and you want to adjust the level, you know which container it was. And of course, test ride the motorcycle.